Alright, this is going to be a walkthrough of activity 12-6, which is using previous versions client. As we alluded to, you need to have shadow copies enabled to create previous versions of files on the system, on the shares, the file shares of a server on a particular volume, and have it shadowed, those different versions, the previous versions shadowed to that volume, in order to bring up the shadow copies. So, and how we do this is by using the previous versions client. So to find the previous versions client, it says to use a system variable called system root, where you click start and run, otherwise known as C:/Windows. That'll be your system root. And in this case we want to, I'm just going to go ahead and type it out longhand, and I've actually already called it up just to view it, which will be your C Windows System 32 clients, TW client, and x86. x86 being the 32-bit version of the program. If we back up a little bit, you notice we also had it for Itanium and for AMD 64, which this is the one you use for most 64-bit implementations. In this case, because this is 32-bit, we're going to install the 32-bit, and we'll just say install. Notice how it only took a second. Let's say finish. And the caveat being that shadow copies has to be enabled on that particular server for that particular volume containing those particular shares. I'll go ahead and say start, and I'll just show you that the client is installed. Come on. The previous version's client has been installed. It's very tiny. And we're going to go ahead and access this file as if we were on the network, and that is going to be my share. Remember, shadow. That's what we set up in the previous run through. And if I double click on this, I'll see that that is the file that I had created. But if I right click on it and say properties, we have a previous version created 752, and I can say copy that version, the previous version, and I want to, let's say, put it on my desktop. There. And if you remember from the previous file, second shadow copy test, whereas the first one I had said testing shadow copies. So this was the shadow copy, the original file that I edited. Now it won't work if for files that have been completely deleted. It will only work for files that have been changed and that still exist in the shadow copy. Once the shadow copy reservoir overruns, it goes past its limit, it'll begin to delete previous versions. Now let's say I want to, since I'm in shadow copy, now I want to say edit, and I'll say third test. If you recall, it made a shadow copy when we first created it. It should only copy what I just did. So if I say on my desktop and say copy, and I say yes, it's only going to restore from the first one, not from one previous. So just to show you that it's the last time a shadow copy was created. In this case, we had set it up to be at 4 o'clock daily. It's not 4 o'clock, so it hasn't created the shadow copy. This concludes our walkthrough of activity Ch12-6, installing and using the previous versions client, which is the client side of using shadow copies on the server.